Well, the review is going up a little bit later than I wanted, but that's because the chapter wasn't quite. It's usually up in the mornings on Thursday, so I can usually do it then, but I checked and I checked and I checked and I checked, and I finally checked again after I ate lunch, and it was finally up. So, time for chapter 1107 for One Piece. Although, I do get a funny story to add here. Taking her on a WALK on our way back, there was a squirrel in a tree and it kept chittering at us a good chunk of the time, and I'm just like, are you trying to talk to me? I do not, as fun as it would be, I do not have a squirrel fruit that allows me to turn into a squirrel and understand you. I'm sure there's a squirrel fruit somewhere in One Piece. I mean, that would make sense. I mean, Marvel has Squirrel Girl, so there might be a squirrel devil fruit somewhere. It'd probably be like whatever the rodent fruit model squirrel or something like that. I was like, I don't know if we've had any rodent fruits. I was like, I don't think so, because there's none that turn into mice or anything along those lines that I can think of. So I don't know. But also, I pulled out my sapphire-ish round necklace for Bonnie, because she gets to have a bit of fun in this chapter. Bit of fun and bit of cathartic emotional thing is going on for Bonnie in this chapter. So the cover page, before we get into the actual chapter, the cover page is adorable. It is Law and Beppo somewhere out in, probably on just whatever winter island you want to put it on, out in the wild. And there is a snow leopard there that Law is napping next to. And Beppo, it's like, Beppo feels awkward after seeing Law napping with a snow leopard, which Beppo has a teapot, and it looks like he's trying to pour it into, like, the leopard's mouth, because there's, like, a funnel into the leopard's mouth. I don't know if that means he's going to try to wake up the leopard with hot tea or something, or what. I don't know, but it's cute. Also, I know that Law is, like, his animal to a degree is like a leopard seal, so there's a joke there. Also, Beppo has a baseball bat that has the Heart Pirate symbol on it. I don't know why. I know baseball is big in Japan, and there's been a One Piece baseball-based game, but I don't know what this has to do with here. Is Beppo's plan wake up the leopard, whack it on the head, grab Law, and run away? It's like, I'm pretty sure Law and Beppo could both easily handle a leopard, a snow leopard. I mean, Zoro's dealing with a leopard personally in the chapter anyway, so, there's something there. Also, I know that Beppo and Law are so fun to just draw together, because, like, there's, like, the whole bit in Film Red where Beppo is, like, there for the concert, and Law's just like, I'm a chauffeur. And then there's a lot of times where, like, I think one of the first times when we're seeing the Polar Tang, there's a moment on the Polar Tang, I think. It might be when Law and the Heart Pirates are leaving Amazon Lily, where, like, Beppo's laying out on the submarine, and, like Penguin and Sachi and some of the others are up on deck talking with Law, and Law's just, like, leaning back against Beppo, using Beppo as a pillow. So I don't know, that's just kind of cute there. I find that adorable. Whenever Law does that. Going into the actual chapter, so we start off with the giants, with the giant warrior pirates, reunited, and it feels so good. So we see Dory and Bragi, and we get their info cards for Dory, the red ogre, and Bragi, the blue ogre. Or did I get those mixed up? I don't remember. One or the other. One is one is the other. I can't really read the text super well. But they're just, like, really happy, and they're yelling out orders to Oimo and Kashi. So we see Oimo and Kashi, who are, of course, the two giants that had been in this lobby that Usopp befriended and told them that, no, your captains haven't been caught by the world government. They're still back on Little Garden having their duel for, the last 100 years. And, so Oimo and Kashi had set out to find their way to Little Garden at some point in time, and they found their captains. This was determined at some point in time, given the fact that they were reunited. Also, we see a bunch of other giants there that are part of the giant warrior pirates, because, like, Oimo and Kashi are yelling out orders, so it's just like, take the others and swing around the sides, and sink any ship you see, and watch out for those cannons. So they're telling them to go and deal with any of the marine vessels that are around the island right now. And then they're just like, Roger that, Captain. They're all heading out to go and fight against them and everything. And then we're getting this intercom system going off where it's all the Marines talking with each other about what's going on. It's just like, countless members of their old crew have also been spotted. What do they want? The fabled giant warrior pirates are where? Where have they been all these years? So they're just like, they didn't know about the duel. They knew that the government had tricked Oimo and Kashi into working for them, but they didn't know where Dory and Bragi were, because they were on Little Garden. No one really went to Little Garden, or if they did, a lot of them didn't make it off the island, either because they were eaten by the dinosaurs, or possibly got sick because of the Kestias. That type of stuff. The same thing that Nami had, and didn't have Kureha there to treat them. So there's that. But also, it's just not a lot of people ended up on Little Garden, was the way that it seemed. And so we see them marching through the island past all the palm trees and everything like that, all the giants coming into play. And we see a bunch of the other ones that, because I know when we got the flashback when Dory and Bragi were talking to Usopp on the island and everything like that on Little Garden, and we got the flashback to explain why they had their duel for 100 years over who caught the bigger Sea King. That we saw a flashback, and there were other giants there that didn't really get named all that much. We saw another one during Big Mom's flashback on Elbath. That was another giant that had been part of the giant warrior pirates and everything and such. So we're seeing some of those other giants in the background that I think are the same ones we saw in the flashback, or they're that was 100 years ago, or 60 some years ago in the case of the one from Big Mom's flashback. So they've maybe changed up their looks a little bit, but I think it's supposed to be those same pirates. Also, the giant warrior pirates, since they are freaking giants, they don't need as big of a crew as other ones. I mean, Hyrule and the new giant warrior pirates only have 5 members, as far as we are, 5 name members that we're aware of. They may have a few others, but those are the ones that we're familiar with from the cover page series and everything. But so we see the giant warrior pirates, and they get the tag and everything, and they're running through the island, and the Marines are yelling over the intercoms. It's like, we've confirmed sightings of both Bragi the red ogre and Dory the blue ogre. So they're just oh my god, where are these living legends, literally living legends, coming from? And we see a bunch of the giant warrior pirates are jumping off of their ship and landing on the Marine ships, and just bang and whacking them and everything like that. It's just the giant pirates have made landfall, blast them to smithereens. And I'm I mean, you can try to use cannons against them, but I don't know how good of luck you're gonna have. I mean, they have their shields, and I'm pretty sure a lot of them are probably well versed in hockey at the very least at this point in time in regards to armament and observation. Then again, depending on the size of said cannonball, a giant might just take it to the head and be like, was that a pebble? Just something got in my hair. Okay, we're good. You dented my helmet, how dare you? Type of thing. So it's they're just running through the island, and then we look up we see Usopp and Nami and Chopper all looking down onto what's happening, and Usopp has his binoculars out, and he's looking down at what's going on, and he's seeing Dory and Bragi, and Nami and Chopper did not meet them. Chopper met Oimo and Kashi when everybody was trying to get and everything was happening on Enies Lobby. Chopper did meet Oimo and Kashi, and Nami met them too, because she's going to mention that she knows their names in a minute. But Usopp is the one that's having the most visceral reaction to this. He's just oh, my masters, and he's just so happy, and he's but what are they doing here? Master Bragi, Master Dory. And Nami's I can see Oimo and Kashi too. I bet they went to Little Garden to pick up their leaders. And, Chopper's just Oimo, Kashi, because he's so happy too. And then, Edison is, kind of there floating next to them, watching all of this happen. And Usopp is just that's gotta be it. Man, I was worried. I thought we might not see them in Elbath. So they are completely unaware of the fact, up to this point, they were completely unaware of the fact that, like, Dory and Broggy had left Little Garden. I mean, up until when it's revealed, when Shanks, with Shanks on Elbath, we were unaware of this as well, because the last time we saw them in a cover page series, they were still on Little Garden, and that was back just after the time skip. Like, when Luffy got his first bounty after the time skip, I think. That was like the last time we saw Dory and Broggy, but I mean, that's been mentioned a lot as of late since we know where they are now. But, and then we get like this cute little, one panel type thing of just like, a refresher on the giant warrior pirates type of a thing. It's just like, long ago, the world was terrorized by the formidable group led by co-captains Dory and Broggy. Their crew would disband after they got into a certain quarrel. Luffy and the gang helped them out when their century-long duel came to an end. Later on, while storming a different island, they would encounter and befriend Oimo and Kashi, a pair of giants who set out to check on their captains. And I like how in the little panel, in like the picture that they have, we see Oimo and Kashi, or like Dory and Broggy are like butting heads, and Oimo and Kashi are in the background. You're like, come on, captains, come on, calm down, like trying to make them back down. And then like it's Nami, Usopp, Luffy, and then Vivi, who I love this, are just like all looking up at this, like, yep, giants. Because I think that's how it was. Because like Luffy and Vivi ended up getting paired up while they were on Little Garden, and then like Usopp and Nami got paired up because Zoro and Sanji went off to go do their hunting contest, and later on Zoro got part of everything that was going on, and then Sanji was like dealing with stuff inside of Mr. Three's wax house and everything like that, and talking to Crocodile. But so like those were Usopp, Luffy, Vivi, and Nami were the four that interacted with the giants the most. I mean, like the rest of the crew at the time got to meet them, and then of course the crew at the time got to meet Oimo and Kashi later on. But I like how it's just like, yeah, that sums it up about right. And everything like that. So it's just like, yeah, when we get to this in the arc in the anime, they'll probably do like a little bit of a flashback to Little Garden. Not a problem. I mean, they did that with the Reverie stuff. Back in Reverie when everything was going on there, when they were reintroducing Kureha and Dalton and Wapol and everything like that, and even Vivi a little bit. So we see Usopp's group is still looking down at where the giants are, and Edison is just like, looks like they're really giving it to those Marines. I don't know why. For some reason I think they gave Edison a southern accent, but I don't know. He's just like, I can't believe y'all know each other. And I think it's still Edison talking. He's like, they must have come a running after hearing the news. And they're like, what? How's that possible? And it's just like, well, the Navy marshaled a ton of manpower for this operation. It's no wonder it'd make the papers. And I reckon the headlines must be painting them in a good light, because that's exactly, well, there's a little bit of an iffy bit there, because like Morgan's would do the headline that would sell the best, but Morgan's also kind of wants to like sell the truth to a degree, and in some cases the truth is better than fiction. And he had kind of, when last time we saw him in the manga, he was like, oh well, let's have it be that the headline will be, Emperor Straw Hat attacks Egghead Island and holds Vegapunk hostage while Marines try to save world famous scientists, is like probably what the headline was going to be, or something like that. But it's just like Morgan's is like listening in on a lot of the stuff that's going on right now, and if Morgan's gets information that Saturn is a giant spider demon, giant spider psycho, I think he's going to run that headline instead. And all of that. And I mean, like, they don't want him to. They certainly would not want him to, because that would be information they certainly do not want getting out to the public. But it would also be, Morgan's would sell the one that sells the most, but also is like the truth, because like he published what happened with Sabo, but with like Sabo and Cobra and everything, he doesn't know the whole story. In his opinion, as far as he's aware, it was Sabo that assassinated Cobra, but he doesn't know the whole story. And I think he would even be like, oh well, I gotta do a revised edition of this, if he found out about like there's an evil king sitting at the top of the world government and everything like that. Morgan's might print that headline instead. But so we see you know, they're all still talking and everything like that, and they're like, so this is big news already? Huh, I guess it makes sense. And Usopp is just so sad. He is just like, they didn't come here to wage war. They came to help us. We gotta they came to help us get out of here. We gotta hurry and finish our prep. So Usopp is just like, yeah, that's why the Giants showed up. That's why they showed up. They came to help you because you guys are their friends. And that just shows, like, the loyalty that not just Luffy but his crew inspires. That's why I really, really like the idea of, like, when, like, whatever big final battle happens in One Piece, I love the idea of, like, all these other allies that the Straw Hats have made over the years show up in some shape or form, or we see them rooting for them somewhere in the world as, like, the newspapers come out, or if somehow it ends up getting broadcast, like the, you know, like the Battle of Marineford and everything like that, where that got broadcast thanks to Buggy. You know, it's just like, I love that idea of, like, all of them, like, all of the different allies that the Straw Hats have, just, like, cheering them on from afar, even if they can't personally be there to help them. I just love that idea. But so, you know, the snail front, the Den Mushi rings, and it's Brook calling in, talking, you know, calling from the Sunny that is still slipping, sliding, skating all over the place, getting to where the others are. And, you know, and he's like, Nami-san, it's Brook. And he's just like, Brook, where are you? And he's like, well, we're close. And he's just like, we see him standing there drinking his tea, and he's just like, very close, but we won't be able to stop for tea. And Lilith is just like, whacks him, and she's just like, we need to stop. If we fly off the edge, we'll be fried by the barrier. And she's like, hello, this is Lilith. This numbskull really is brainless. We can't afford to dilly-dally, so pay attention. So I'm assuming she's, like, explaining to them something that they can do in order to stop the Sunny from, like, flying off the edge. I mean, Brook could literally just make a giant ice wall to stop the Sunny from going off the side. That would be fine. Just, like, stop it and kind of just, like, make it, you know, stay where it's supposed to be. But then again, depending on how everything lands, if they deactivate the barrier, if they have the ability to do that, if they deactivate the barrier, then, and they have, like, Oimo or Kashi or one of the giants waiting there to, like, catch the ship, depending on size comparisons there. I mean, like, we saw them in comparison to Mary, and that was still pretty small compared to them, but, and, you know, Sunny's a fair bit bigger than Mary, so maybe not so much, but, like, however they end up landing that, or, you know, the ancient giant that's waking up, that could show up and catch them and help get them out to sea so they can get away there. So they might come up with something like that. But we cut to Jinbei, who is using the Dom shoes to, like, fly, which is, I'm sure Jinbei's, like, kind of small part of Jinbei's like, yeah, I can fly. Just like, whee! And he's just like, sounds like they're getting fired up. I need to be ready to leave. We need to be ready to leave at a moment's notice. So he's, like, on his way to where, you know, Zoro and Lucci are fighting still. And he's just like, this isn't a time to be picking fights, Zoro. And then we cut to where we see Zoro and Lucci fighting. And they're just like, you know, Zoro's just like, pant, you're pretty tough, but I'm in a hurry. It's time to wrap this up. Side note, when I first read this panel, I thought it said time warp, as in, like, let's do the time warp again from Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I'm like, no, that was last arc that they dealt with time travel. I don't think they're going to do that again. But just, like, you know, so Zoro's standing there dealing with Lucci, and Lucci's just like, only the winner gets to talk like that, Roronoa. Your crew's waiting for you, right? You're just a burden at this point. And he's just like, those fools will never make it if they can't cut off their arm to save the body. That is a sacrifice that the Straw Hats would not make. Giving up now would be doing them a favor. Waiting for a corpse is pointless after all. And Zoro is just like, it almost sounds like you think you're the one in control of this fight, Rob Lucci. So when I was like, for some reason this thought had not popped into my Disney-centric brain before. I don't know why, but it didn't. So when I was reading through the spoilers for the chapter, and it's just like, you know, Zoro is still fighting a leopard. And for some reason, again, don't know why it didn't pop into my head sooner, the fight in Tarzan, in the movie Tarzan by Disney, where Tarzan fights Sabor, who is the leopard, that is also the leopard that killed his, you know, human parents. Tarzan fights against Sabor, and it's this like very epic moment in the movie, and he is the one that comes out victorious, and he pulls Sabor up and like raises him into the air, and like shows off his victory and everything like that. I'm like, I kind of want Zorro to do that a little bit with Lucci, just like like what happened to Loki in Avengers when Hulk just went like just like swung Loki around. I kind of want Zorro to do that with Lucci and just like knock him out and everything like that. Again, still don't know what's going on with Kaku. He's still in a bubble up in the dome with York. Don't know if they've done anything with that since we have not seen York or Kaku or Stussy yet for a while. Hopefully we get to catch up on them soon. But the fight between Tarzan and like Sabor popped into my head the other day. Why it hadn't popped into my head earlier, given the fact that Zorro's been fighting a leopard for a while, I don't know. But for some reason it did. So we cut to outside the island where we see one of the Mark III pacifistas is firing at some of the different ships. And we get some more, Denden Mushi intercom stuff between the different Navy ships, and they're like, damage report. Roughly 30 of our small to medium size ships have been sunk with no signs of it stopping. So they came with 100. They've knocked down 30. Thanks to the pacifistas, they've knocked down 30. There might be a few other ones that have gotten knocked out as well. Or at the very least, some of the ships are sustaining damage beyond that. Because we see one of the bigger battleships here in a second. I have the hiccups. And we see the Vice Admiral he's called Red King. He's the one with all the chins. And he's just like, pull back all smaller vessels and lead with the battleships. We can't afford to leave an opening. And are just like, yes, sir. Vice Admiral Red King was like, this is a pitiful sight to think the Marines have to fire on our own weapons. And I mean, technically, yes, but hey, you're the ones trying to literally force the image of a father to try to kill the daughter of that person's father. So, but we see a bunch of the pacifistas do actually end up taking damage because one of them gets fired at by probably some form of a rather high degree cannon and ends up knocking down one of the pacifista Mark IIIs. So again, they're not indestructible, but they're kind of only capable of following certain orders and everything like that. Now they're on Bonnie's side, so that's at least helpful. Speaking of Bonnie, cutting back to what's going on inside the island, or on the island, in the middle of the island, where we see Saturn, Sanji, Bonnie, Frankie, Atlas, Kuma, and Vegapunk all looking up at the sky at where Luffy is in the sky doing, the Nika pose. And Luffy's just like, hey, Bonnie! And Bonnie's just kind of like, what? He's like looking up at him. And Luffy's just like, what's with the waterworks? And Bonnie is, and of course this is just coming off on the heels of like Bonnie just having this realization that Luffy is the sun god, that he is Nika embodied. And she's just like, why wouldn't I be crying, you idiot? I've been looking for you for so long. And I mean, I know so many people are going to be making the comments about this and have been making the comments, and I'm one of them about this. It's like, Bonnie is literally having a religious experience right now. It's like this deity that she has been worshiping and told stories about by her father for like all of her life. And she had set out to try to find Nika in the process of finding her father. And she's just like, I've been running around on this island with him for the past, half a day or whatever. We ate a bunch of pizza and pigged out on stuff together, and we got angry at holograms and everything. And, blah, 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 blah. And, like, now he's actually the embodiment of the god that I've been literally grew up in the church of my whole life type of a thing, or like the majority of my life is like the thoughts running through Bonnie's head right now, or like all those thoughts running through her head. And Luffy is just like, yeah, but I've been here the whole time. She's like, sure, but I didn't know you were Nika. And when I was reading through the spoilers for this, one of the things that popped into my head, again, I've mentioned before, I am religious, but I still have my own opinions when it comes to certain things, when it comes to religion in general. But one of the things that this made me think of is there's the footprints in the sand poem that is like the whole, you know, you were walking by, with Christ, and then at some point there were only one set of footprints, and then you ask like, why did you leave me? And it's just like, no, I didn't leave you, I was Christ is like, no, I didn't leave you, I was carrying you during those hard times and everything like that. So it's just like the whole thing in this case is Luffy's just like, well, I've been right here the whole time. Like, I've been, it's like, it can be read as either the context of like, well, I've been by your side the whole time, but it's just like, no, I've been here on the island with you for a while now, so, whatever. And Bonnie's just like, yeah, but I didn't know you were Nika. And he's like, Nika, what's that? And he's just like, oh, yeah, what's the deal with that flimsy punch you tried to throw earlier? And Bonnie, I love this. Bonnie, without missing a beat here, it's just like, I was going for a big rubbery attack like you. If it's so flimsy, why don't you show me how it's done? And she points at Saturn, and she's just like, give that old windbag a good one for Vegapunk, then we can get out of here. And Luffy, the eyes bulging out of his head, is looking down at Vegapunk, and he is just like, what the heck happened? Like, what the heck happened, Vegapunk? Because, like, he hadn't realized that Vegapunk had been hit by Kizaru's laser. Not hit by Kizaru's laser, had been stabbed by Saturn. Luffy hadn't realized that yet. Otherwise, Luffy would have had this reaction a lot sooner. But like, it's the eyes popping out of the head reaction. But I think it's also like a combination of that and like when he went into like the red angry version of like the Gear 5th, when like the hologram wasn't real food type of a thing, at the beginning of Egghead, with, what just happened in one of the more recent episodes. So I think it's like a little bit of that. And Bonnie's just like, yeah, hit him. And Saturn is just like, now none of you filthy cockroaches have a right to live now. And Luffy's just like, yeah, you're wrong. All right, Bonnie, sounds like a plan. He's just like, oh, sure, you want me to punch the spider thingy? Sure, I'm fine with that. And Luffy just like is like, revving up his arm, ready to punch, and he's just like, for the record, this is how you punch. And Saturn tries to use his head exploding power on Luffy, and it doesn't, I mean, like, it has an effect on Luffy, but it doesn't really do much. I mean, like, Luffy's head kind of gets, like, knocked back, but, like, it didn't really cause a lot of damage. And Luffy just, like, it's like, okay, like, fights through it, and he, like, finishes whirling up his attack, and he's just like, you're gonna pay for hurting my friends. Gum Gum Booming Dawn. And he just, like, is, like, Dawn Gatling, and he's just, like, banging on Saturn. So it's just like, we finally get the cathartic bit of Luffy punching the giant spider psycho. It's like, and Saturn's just getting beat up, and that's just like, I mean, like, there's catharsis in this in regards to, like, and they'll probably draw it out a little bit in the anime, which is fine. There's catharsis in this from Bonnie, but she's not taking joy in it right now. She's like, Bonnie is going through so many up and down emotions right now. She gets to the island, she gets saved by the Straw Hat, she's thankful to the Straw Hats, and then she's like, I'm gonna go kill Vegapunk because of what he did to my dad. And then she ends up learning via going through her dad's memories and like learning all of that stuff after chasing Vegapunk around the island. She learns that no, Vegapunk wasn't the one that ordered all of this and everything. It was Saturn. And then now she's like, okay, now my focus is on Saturn. And then she tries to fight Saturn, and then he's just like, no, that won't work because your faith in your god is slipping. And then her father shows up and saves her again. And then now Luffy as Nika has reappeared and is like able to like reaffirm her faith. And like, that's like one of the thoughts that a lot of people have, is like that Bonnie and Luffy's fruit can kind of feed off of, like, Bonnie's fruit can to a degree feed off of Luffy's fruit, because Luffy's fruit, particularly in Gear 5th, is kind of fueled by freedom and imagination type of thing. And Bonnie's devil fruit is also to a degree fueled by imagination. It's in like the imagination of like of a child in that regard, and that's why a child is the best one to have like the age fruit in this particular circumstance. And she's, Bonnie's been going through an up or down roller coaster. We do see Kuma is like kind of looking up, but we're not getting a reaction. We see Vegapunk still lying on the ground, and he's kind of like smiling a bit at this because he's like, yeah, okay, I might be dying here, but at least I'm getting to see maybe this hope of the new world type of a thing. And we just see Luffy like just pummeling Saturn and sends him flying into some more of the buildings and everything like that. And so Saturn's just sent off. We cut back to where Frankie is along with Atlas, who has the Kuma on her back, and Bonnie is like looking over Saturn, is looking over not Saturn, is looking over Vegapunk, and Frankie is just like, you're gonna have to use your legs if you want to get out of here, Bonnie. And she's like, and Atlas is just like, the hover function should still work while we're on the island, so the shoes should still fly. And they're just like, let's go, Vegapunk. And Vegapunk is just like, go on without me, Bonnie. I've been a doctor for long enough to know that if I move now, I'll die. And they're just like, what? None of them want to hear that because, of course, Atlas doesn't want to hear it because she's connected to Vegapunk literally, and he's the one that built her, and they have a connection anyway in that regard. And then, of course, Frankie doesn't want to lose Vegapunk because Vegapunk is his idol, and Bonnie doesn't want to leave Vegapunk because Vegapunk, she's finally been able to actually like heal this wound from Vegapunk, or that she thought was caused by Vegapunk, and she's like, he's like the closest, like one of her grandfather figures, along with like Bulldog and everything like that back from Sorbet. And so she's just like, but none of them want to leave him and everything like that. And that's when Kizaru comes in, and he's just like, well, you'll die either way. This is it. And he's like building up his laser to fire at Bonnie. And Sanji jumps in front of the laser and blocks it. So we get a nice shot there of, Sanji blocking the laser. And then we get like a very, very surprised look from Kizaru, like, what the heck just happened, type of thing. And then Frankie kind of does the NL face, which is just funny, the Eneru face. And he's just like, what the hell? That was a freaking laser. And Sanji's like, light doesn't hold a candle to love. And I'm just like, Sanji. Okay. And Kizaru is just like, if that's true, they'll have to scrap the physics books and start from scratch. Why do I have a feeling that Kizaru just kind of had a similar reaction to what happened in Harry Potter when on the night on Halloween in 1981, when Harry's a baby and when Lily, protects him from Voldemort, and then the Avada Kedavra rebounds and hits Voldemort? Why do I have a feeling that's similar to the look that was on Voldemort's face of, oh no, this is not what I had planned. Kizaru, laser! How'd the cook guy block that? That was not how. Help! Physics! This is not what I was told. And so what happens is they start running away. Frankie is flying with the Dom shoes, and Bonnie's hanging onto his back. And then Sanji also has, Atlas still has Kuma on her back, so she's flying. And they're just like, let's go to the northeast port. And Kizaru's just like, well, I'm in a real pickle now. And he's just like, they'll expect me to at least bring back your heads after all this. And Luffy's just like bouncing there laughing and everything like that. And Sanji's there lighting a cigarette, of course. And he's just like, well, you better start drafting an apology letter for them then. Yep. And Vegapunk is still lying on the ground. I did want to make a comment in regards to Vegapunk. I mean, yes, depending on which vital organs were pierced at this point in time and how much blood loss he has, that's going to be, if they move him too much, he will die from blood loss plus whatever other organ failure might be going on. But one of the other things that I wanted to point out, because I was trying to think if there would be a way for them to like move him without causing any more problems for him. And I'm like, I really can't think. I mean, like, one of the thoughts that I had was like, well, Sanji can literally light himself on fire. So if anything, Sanji can like light himself on fire, and they can at least cauterize Vegapunk's wounds so they will stop bleeding. Kind of like what happened on top of Onigashima with Kiku's arm, how they did that. How Kizaru, or how, not Kizaru, how Kinemon, lots of K's, how Kinemon, cauterized Kiku's arm, shoulder, so that way it would stop bleeding during the fight while they were dealing with Kaido, because she couldn't just like stop and go and rest and have her arm fixed, and such. So there's that. But I'm like, so they could try to cauterize his wounds, but I was trying to think if there would be like some other thing that could happen that they could do to try to like fix him. I mean, Law's not there, so they can't do anything with that. You know, they don't have anybody else that has like a healing type of devil fruit because, you know, Mosheri is not there. And I can't really think of, there's not really any other ones in that regard that would be useful in that regard. I mean, if they had, okay, thought. I was about to say, if they had Boa there, if they had Hancock there, they could turn Vegapunk to stone, and that would prevent him from losing any more blood and having any more problems in that regard because he'd be stone. They would just have to make sure that he doesn't get broken at that point in time. They do still have S Snake on the island, and if S Snake is there, and if they could get S Snake there to where Vegapunk is, then they could then have Luffy ask her to turn Vegapunk to stone, because it doesn't kill them, it just turns them to stone, turn Vegapunk to stone, and then when they got him to a place where he could be, where they could, you know, actually medically work on him, where he could receive first aid and everything like that from like Chopper and whatever, then they could have S-Snake revert him back to normal. That would work, but as far as we're aware, all of the Seraphim that are still on the island are still trapped in bubbles and are still in another part of the island. So unless via all of the cannon fire going on that they've been released from their bubbles, and then it's like, I don't know who priority would take over. I mean, with S Bear, probably Bonnie. If he runs into Bonnie, she could say something and he would be on their side. But then S Snake, maybe because of Luffy, would be, you know, go to their side a little bit. But like S Croc or S Hawk and S Shark, maybe not. But that's still two Seraphim that can be on your side and that can be very useful in this regard. But given the command chip structure we've seen, barring S Bear, I don't know if they would be able to get past like the Saturn setup there with like him being, you know, the one of the Gorosei in that regard. But and given something else that's going to happen in a minute, that might cause some problems. But like, yeah, if they had a Snake there, she could turn Vegapunk into stone, and then they could try to get Vegapunk out of there and then turn him back to, you know, flesh and blood. So that way Chopper would be able to, you know, treat him. But I don't think that's going to be an option unless in the next chapter the Seraphim show up and one of them happens to be S Snake and she, you know, helps them because Luffy asked her or whatever. But like, yeah, Vegapunk's still lying on the ground, so he's still in trouble. Cutting away from Vegapunk, we cut to the rubble where Saturn just got thrown into. And he's getting up out of the rubble, and he's looking around, and he's just like, well, or we hear a voice, well, it's not every day you see one of the 5 elders down in the dirt. And Saturn looks up, and we see Katarina Devon and Van Augur from the Blackbeard Pirates. And she's just like, my, look at you. Just what kind of delicious power do you have? To think an elder would come down to the surface and bless us with his presence. It's unheard of. And she's just like, but you sure made our job a hell of a lot easier. And we see her reach out her hand and touch his leg with her, it would be with her right hand. Bear in mind, I do not remember with Mr. 2 with the Mane no Mi. I don't remember if it's the left hand or the right hand that he has to use to do the copying and the changing. I don't remember. But she specifically touched him with her right hand. And it could just be she's right-handed. Or it could just be that just happened to be the easier one to touch him with. I don't know. But she touches him and she's just like, mission accomplished. And we get a nice cover or a nice thing here. We see her all drawn. And then, okay, Katarina Devon is just like disturbing on so many levels. But I do have to admit, I do like her outfit. I at least got to admit that. I like her outfit. Don't like her clothes. That's the way it kind of stands for like some of the characters in anime. It's just like, well, I despise you as a human being, but I like your fashion sense, okay? I at least can agree on that. I despise you in every single aspect of your characteristics, but I like your fashion sense. Um, and then we see Van Augur there as well. And Saturn is just like, what business do you have here, as he's looking at them? And he's just like, Katerina Devon, I'm surprised a level 6 escapee like you would choose the life of a subordinate. And she's just like, Teach is special. And I'm just like, okay. Okay, I kind of don't want this, but it would be interesting if it's like, if Katerina kind of has a crush on Blackbeard the way that like Hancock has a crush on Luffy. That would be interesting. That she is kind of like devoted to Blackbeard. Maybe not quite the same way, but has a bit of like that devotion there. But she's just like, Teach is special. And like, I don't know how that line's going to get read when they get to it in the anime, but that could be read of, oh, Teach is special, or Teach is special. Which is like, ugh. I don't care for either of those ways of reading the line, but it can be read in multiple different ways. And he's just like, as is his lineage. And they're just like, so you know about that. And he's just like, your crew, and Saturn is just like, your crew is always up to something. What do you hope to get out of these stunts? And Van Augur and Katerina are just like, the world. And Saturn like gets ready to attack them, and he does stab his leg down, but Augur is able to teleport both of them out of there and to a different area of the island, and Saturn's just kind of like standing there in the rubble looking around, like trying to figure out where they went. And we cut to where they are, which looks like they're still on the island, because they're going to run into Caribou in a second, so they're still on Egghead. But in regards to like where on the island, they might just be on an area of the island that's a little bit more secluded, that just hasn't been hit by any of the cannon fire yet, because it doesn't look like it's been attacked yet. But Van Augur warps him there, and he's just like, let's be off then. And Katerina's like, we're still on the island. Couldn't you have warped us any further? And he's just like, I haven't mastered it yet. And then we hear, wait! And then out of the forest area comes running Caribou. And he's just like, hold on a second, please, Supersonic Van Augur, Maiden Hunter Katerina Devon, I've never thought we'd meet in a place like this. And he's just like, he's begging and crying, and he's just like, I'm a bird like you, my name's Caribou, I've been looking for you guys for like ever. Sorry, I meant to say forever. For like ever, forever. And it's like, I said so because I wanted to get to be a great man just like him. He's my idol, my hero. I've always dreamed of being Alakia and Commodore Teach's crew. And he's just like bawling his eyes out, and he's just like, it's all I've ever wished for. Please just take me to meet him. He's just like, Weird question. Have we ever seen Caribou's hands? Because he's always got like the long sleeves and everything. Like, have we ever seen him actually like have his hands on display? I don't know why. For some reason that just occurred to me. But he's just like bawling and just begging, and I'm just like, okay, either A, everything that he just said is completely true, and he does idolize Blackbeard, which is, I guess, reasonable. He is literally scummy, so Caribou, scummy, swampy, following Blackbeard, perfectly reasonable. On the other hand, it could be that Caribou is saying all of this because he thinks it's something that will get them to take him with him, because Caribou is a suck-up. And it could be that because when Luffy was in Udon and Caribou was there, Caribou kept trying to suck up to Luffy. And even when they were first introduced, when Caribou and his brother were first introduced on Fishman, or in Return to Sabaody, he was trying to suck up to, his plan was to suck up to the fake Straw Hats and eventually take over the crew. So, has this been Caribou's plan all along, to suck up to the fake Straw Hats and then suck up to the real ones and then try to get them to help him, and then now he's here trying to suck up to Blackbeard? Has it been his intention all along to try to get to Blackbeard, or try to make himself enough of an interest that he could maybe catch Blackbeard's attention? I mean, the problem with this obviously is that if they take Caribou with him, he can give them information on 2 of the weapons, of the agent weapons. He can give them information about Shirahoshi and he can give them information about Poseidon and Wano. So, or Pluton and Wano. So, those are bad since he has that information. And it could have been, there's always the theories that have been going on ever since Caribou's like, ooh, that person will be very interested in this information. And it's just like, what that person are you referring to? Was he like working for Crocodile the whole time? That's been a theory for a long time. Was he working for Blackbeard in the shadows? Which at the very least, that theory has been disproven, given the fact that he's just like, he's begging them to take him with him. Because if they knew who he was, as in like if they knew he was working for Blackbeard the whole time to gather information, then they would probably be like, oh, well, yeah, sure, come on, Caribou. Like, not even giving him, like, a second look and just being like, he wouldn't have to beg to get them to take him with them. And it'd just be like, hey, hi, guys, you remember me, Caribou? Yeah, sure, fine, come on, what information do you have for us? Would basically be what would happen, but I don't think that's the case here. So either he's completely and utterly true in the fact of how much he adores and idolizes Blackbeard, which just is disturbing, or he's just lying and trying to butter them all up and everything like that to take him with them because he doesn't want to have to suck up to the Straw Hats again to get off the island. Because he's at least smart enough to figure, he's like, I'm not getting off this island on my own, and I don't think I can get on a marine ship and get off that way and escape that way. I don't think that's happening. So there's that. But, it's like those are the two options there, or he's like somewhere in the middle and he's just like, if I suck up to them, maybe they'll take me to Blackbeard, and I know at the very least Blackbeard will probably give me something for the information that I have, but that might be the only thing he's gonna get. And if he does go with them, it's just like, okay, fine, we'll bring the disgusting swamp thing with us. Poke, poke, poke. Ew. Katarina, fine, we'll take you with us, but you're bathing when we get to Hachinosu. I mean, that's always a concept there, or a possibility there. In regards to other stuff that's going to happen, possibly next chapter, I mean, it says here, it's like there's going to be the front cover is going to be a color spread, so that'll be nice. Still waiting to see when we're going to get another cover page series. It's been a while since we've had one, so that would be nice. And I know that in like the last episode of the anime, they just did references to the Germa 66's Emotionless Journey cover spread with like what they showed happen between Kuzan and Cracker and Van Auger and everything on Whole Cake with dealing with Cracker and capturing Pudding. So we just saw that in the anime, but in regards to what'll happen next in this stuff, Caribou, they might just take Caribou with them. It's just like, okay, he could be useful, but whatever, and they might just take him with him, or something. The giant warrior pirates are going to cause more damage on the island, knocking out the Marines. Maybe they'll show up at the area where Luffy is, and then Luffy and Sanji will be like, oh my god, it's Dorian Bragi, and all that stuff, and they'll just be like, oh my god, it's been so long, and everything like that, and like have that moment there, maybe. Or Ormo and Kashi are show there. Or maybe it'll be one of the pirates that the Straw Hats actually haven't met yet will show up there at like where Luffy and his group are. And then like they're just like, where'd the giants come from? They're just like, Captains Dorian Bragi have sent us here to aid you, sun god, sir. What's a sun god? Sure, fine. Attack him, points at Kizaru, and deals with him that way. I mean, that's a possibility. Usopp is just going to be so happy to actually talk to Dorian Bragi and Oimo and Kashi again, as well the rest of the Straw Hats. Jinbei's probably going to go and hopefully be able to get Zoro and Lucci to stop fighting, or maybe he'll just come up from behind Lucci and just like knock Lucci out from behind. And Jinbei will be the one to actually take out Lucci in this arc. Whatever the heck happens there. I still want to find out what's going on with Kaku, the Seraphim, Stussy, and York. I mean, they could have Stussy on a stretcher as well, and they could be trying to get her ready to get onto the Sunny as well. But I don't know about the other ones. Again, Kaku, I mean, given what Lucci literally just said in this chapter about, like, cutting off your arm to, to save the body, he could literally choose the whole thing of, like, look at Kaku still trapped in the bubble, and, Lucci has the chance to escape, and he could choose to go and help Kaku, but he chooses to save his own skin instead. And Kaku is just like, okay, fine. Well, I guess that answers that question. Hey, Straw Hats, you want a giraffe on the crew? Usopp, we can be long nosed buddies. Type of thing. Or it's like, can you please at least let me out of the bubble? Can I be at least allowed to not die trapped in a bubble? Is that a possibility? Again, if he escapes, I don't know where he's going. Could go with the Straw Hats to Elbath. I don't know. Maybe they also have an interesting giraffes on Elbath. I don't know. Although admittedly, if like someone from like where Norse mythology originated from in that area, in like Scandinavia and all of that area, if they saw an actual giraffe, like if a Viking saw an actual giraffe, I have no idea what they would think it was. They'd be like, what is that thing? I don't know what it is, but it's probably I don't know. I don't know. Let's make it a god. Let's give it 2 more legs or 4 more legs, and we'll make it a god. But I don't know. But we'll see what happens there. I don't know what's gonna happen with that stuff. I like Kaku. I want to find out what happens with Kaku. I want to find out if Kaku's gonna survive this. As I said, they could use a snake to turn Vegapunk to stone so he's not going to bleed out anymore, or at the very least he's not in pain anymore, I would assume, because I don't think if you're petrified by the love beam or whatever that you're in pain anymore, that you're in pain or that you can feel anything. But turn him into stone, and then you could always have like one of the giants gently scoop him up and move him to where the Sunny will be, or where the Sunny is at that point in time, so that way put him on one of the gurneys or something like that. Depending on certain situations, that would be a possibility. But I don't really know how else they're going to get out of that situation. I mean, I don't want Vegapunk to die at all, but also we don't know exactly if, like, in regards to Punk Records, there is the question of, okay, if you destroy the island, are you going to destroy Punk Records along with it? If you destroy Vegapunk, are you going to destroy Punk Records? As long as the satellites survive, is Punk Records still usable? Can you cut off any of the satellites from Punk Records? Like, could they like cut off York from Punk Records so that way she doesn't have that knowledge to draw upon? The same way that like if Lilith and Atlas and Edison and whatever, like if they manage to make it out, or if at least one of them manages to make it out, is there a way for them to like disconnect York from Punk Records? And if Punk Records does survive, even if Vegapunk dies, if Punk Records does survive, does that mean that, because like all of that knowledge, they can't just have that knowledge just be lost all again. That just doesn't seem fair. But then again, the world government doesn't care, and they would be fine if it set back the world a bit, just to keep their positions of power for like the Gorosei and Eam and everything like that. But like for Punk Records, is it like, because we haven't actually seen Punk Records exactly like how large Vegapunk's brain has gotten, and then in that capacity, like, can it be like closed in an egg that is basically made of like indestructible material? Maybe sea prism stone, maybe something else that is just literally indestructible, and that way it still works, and it can still receive and send signals from it, but you can't get inside of it unless you have like a certain passcode or a certain key or something like that, or some variation of that. And maybe like it's designed that like, oh, even if it like sinks to the bottom of the ocean, it'll still be viable. It'll still send out a signal, so that way even if like the island is destroyed by the Buster Call, it will still be a usable thing that they can still get information from, and that Vegapunk can still set up his idea of like the internet and like his version of like Punkopedia or whatever you want to call it. In that regard. So those are all possibilities of what could happen there. So that's what I have for this one. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye.